When I think about horror movies that came out this year, I feel that there is truly a limitless potential of how good they can get and how downright awful they can be. So when I heard that they made a sequel to a franchise that not only did I forget that a sequel came out in 2023, I had to go see it because I thought it would be awful, but I was pleasantly surprised. Welcome back, everybody. Hope y'all having a blessed day today or night. I'm doing this at night, so that's why I'm whispering. I went to go see Insidious. Insidious 6? Insidious, it's like some weird, hold on. Insidious Out of the Further. Okay, got the title right. Alright, so what's this Insidious movie about this time? Because, again, completely forgot about the one that came out 3 years ago. It's basically just a mother and daughter being tormented by the evil spirit, and they have to figure out what they want so that they can stop these spirits from carrying out their mission. What's that mission? We'll get into that pretty soon. Alright, so the mom, Amelia Eve, actually does a pretty solid job selling the horror of being scared by ghosts and the truly disgusting work of a dentist. Yeah, she works in a dentist, and that is so disgusting. I quite literally gagged. That's the only time in the movie where I was disturbed. The movie really wasn't that scary to me, and that's mainly because the horror movie itself is a very cookie cutter horror movie. I'll get into that in a second. The daughter I thought would be annoying, but as the film went on, not only were her actions justified, but the consequences that came from them were not her fault. In fact, towards the end of the film as well, she really proved herself to be a very valuable asset to not only the plot of the film, but also showing why she loves her mom. Pretty nice stuff. I have to say that the directing was probably my favorite part of this movie. It does an amazing job showing the horror and showing the atmosphere rather than people talking about what was seen, what was told. It gives some of the most striking imagery I've seen in some of the Insidious movies since perhaps the first one, in my opinion. It's an Insidious staple, and I feel they cranked that up to 11. The cranking up will come back soon in a minute. But let me get to why I think it's very cookie cutter, because at least in the first half, you have the expected jump scares and horror elements that have been seen honestly pretty recently. There's even an entire set piece of claustrophobia in this, and it felt very reminiscent of the back rooms. A little too similar in my opinion. The movie is really not trying to do anything too crazy. And again, I think the other part that I want to point out is that you look at something, right, and then it moves when you're not looking. Like I said, stuff you've seen before. And also, I don't think the side characters were useless. In fact, they contributed to the plot as they should. They really didn't have much personality for them to contrast themselves from not only the demons, but also the mom and daughter duo. On top of the fact that I do think that the plot that I just explained has been done so many times over. Family gets tormented, so on and so forth. Like I said, Insidious staple. The second half of this movie is when things go absolutely insane. The concept of the spirits of the world is cranked up to 11. The demonic spirits themselves, they look insanely real because of the prosthetics and the makeup work that went into this. There were so many demons. It feels like you're at Halloween Horror Nights, if you even know what that is. It's like a whole theme park, especially towards the end of the movie. Also, the overall gimmick that they introduced into the film where they get to transport these spirits from the spirit world to the real world was used to the absolute fullest, which made the ending not only extremely engaging but also quite shocking in my opinion. That's really all I can say about the movie, is that this is probably the best Insidious movie that I've seen, bar the first one in my opinion, which to be fair isn't really a high bar to pass, but honestly I'm just surprised that I saw a pretty decent horror movie overall, and it was pretty fun, especially because I went with my brother too. So there's that as well. I want to bring up the spirit world again because I feel that concept has never been explored enough, and I feel that the writers and the directors are finally understanding that what makes them different from other movies like The Conjuring. I feel like that's such a comparison that's done all the time because there are actually even actors and people from The Conjuring movies in this movie. Not in this movie particularly, but just in the Insidious movie overall. But I'm glad that they are fully going in on their key signature of the spirits and not just limiting themselves to one. which I feel they should do more because it gives this, at the very least, gives you a pretty fun horror movie overall. I know it's weird to say, but it may not be scary, at least to me, but it was pretty entertaining. And the plot of this movie is honestly very reminiscent of breaking generational curses because of the mom's mom, or I guess grandmother, was also being tormented by the same demon, and it basically led to everything here. Doesn't really explain too much why he chose now to do it. Again, they try to tie it together, but it's not really that convincing in my opinion. Anyway, I feel the verse that brings this all together is Romans chapter 12 verse 2, where it's, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because she understands that she has this ability, she not only uses it to find out the truth for herself, but she also uses it to save her family. So pretty biblical in my opinion. So I give Insidious Out of the Further pretty solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, not too much to say here.